but the thing that I really wanted to talk about was I saw a Broadway musical this week, and it blew me away just with how cool and creative it was.
To specify, off-Broadway, but
off-Broadway.
It was, yeah. You didn't travel to New York to. I want to preface it with that because when you talk about it, you might get a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
a musical, and it is a musical that is off-Broadway, but like I would assume a traveling. I'll let you get it. I just wanted to give that preface so that people don't get confused.
No, and I was going to give that preface too. It's smart that you went ahead and did that. It was the touring Broadway version of MJ the musical. Now, MJ is not Mary Jane Watson or the drug Mary Jane.
Darn it.
It is Michael Jackson, the King of Pop. And a bit of a background with why it means so much to me that this musical was made is Michael Jackson was a major part of my childhood. Not even just that, he is my favorite artist of all time. I think he is a genius with everything that he did. I know all of his songs from his top hits to the bare bones of, oh, this was Michael Jackson. When did he make this?
Yeah.
I love Michael Jackson. I grew up with him, and he's such a big part of me growing up. Oh God, this is a story. When I was a kid, this was like a fresh, I just joined theater type thing. All I wanted to do was to find a group of friends to make dance music videos to Michael Jackson songs, which looking at that now, I go, man, I am a fucking idiot. Whoever would have wanted to watch that?
There are people out there. I don't know. Your parents, maybe your parents.
Yeah, that it would have been like the hanging art on a fridge. Good job, buddy. I'm so proud of you. That's the exact same thing I would have gotten.
Yeah.
But I'm pointing out how much I love MJ as an artist, excluding some of the controversial things about him as a person, which I don't necessarily want to get into about this.
Yeah. Well, and I think, well, and I was thinking, because I was gonna, I'll say I have a comment on that whole like separating artist from, but I actually, a little hint to one of my top fives. That is a preface for one of the items on my top five, and I'll leave it at that. But I think it's an important conversation to have, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. But since I have that as well, let's save it for later, and we'll kind of talk about it together. But yeah, continue. Tell me about Michael Jackson.
Yeah, King of Pop. Oh, you're talking about the show, aren't you? Oh, I thought you were referring about the person. Oh, my bad. Nah. Yeah, so the show takes place before his biggest tour he ever did. This is if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be very early 2000s or very, very late 90s. They never exactly say, and I honestly, God, I didn't do the research to find out when this tour actually took place, but I knew that it
and not to age you, you wouldn't have been old enough to remember
what do you mean,
when this tour actually took place.
What do you mean? I'm old. I can be a boomer if I wanted to be.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah, no, but the whole point is that it taking place 2 days before the tour hits. They're in rehearsals, and basically the whole opening scene is everybody getting ready. They're stretching, and then Michael comes in, and they open the show with the hit song "Beat It," which I love that song. It's so
classic,
it's great.
Classic.
But what's so interesting about this show, and what I was blown away by is, again, I'm an actor. One of the biggest things I was trained to do was to always be in character. It doesn't matter if you're off stage or on stage. You are the character. The character is you. And something that they did with this show, like I said, they had the actors come on, they stretched, they got ready like it's a normal rehearsal studio before Michael Jackson gets here, and they're rehearsing Beat It like it's for the big tour. The show actually hadn't started yet. So you have the orchestra come on stage, and they're setting up their instruments, getting ready to play.
Yeah.
And you have actors one by one coming on, they open the door, they're changing their shoes and they're stretching. Like that's not a part of the show. That's just like a pre-show to the actual show, but it sets up the world
Mm-hmm.
and it really makes you feel connected, and it gives this a very lively sense. And it's one of my favorite things to see when it's done correctly, because I have seen it when it's done incorrectly and it's absolutely horrible. Uh, but they do it so well, and the reason Beat It is such like a big opening number, not just because it's an awesome song, is the beat starts playing, bum 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 bum, and they're going through everything, and the stage manager comes on, 1 minute to Michael, and the beat keeps playing, it gets stronger, and it slowly becomes more like Beat It. And it's like the moment Michael Jackson enters the room, looking good, everybody. I think everybody's doing great. Somebody takes off his jacket and they go straight into it, and it's the lighting, the costumes, it's all so well done, and that's just the opening number. Um, I want to talk about the guy who played Michael really quickly, because that is not an easy feat, playing
No.
Michael Jackson. I
He
mean,
has a very recognizable voice and
yeah,
personality that
yeah,
people
yeah,
know. It's not like, oh, you can get away. Like, it's not only that they know him, it's that he's iconic for it.
yes, absolutely, and that's why it, it was like watching. I know you've never seen it, but there's a movie called Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey,
Hmm.
and Jim Carrey plays a character of Andy Kaufman, who actually is a real person. And watching Jim Carrey in that role he was Andy Kaufman. Like Jim Carrey was not there, and that's kind of how I felt with this. Like the guy was Michael Jackson's, from the small mannerisms to he holds his hands behind his back as he walks around, and he had the very up here type voice, and it's very soft and very quiet. There was actually moments I leaned over. I saw the show with my mom, and I leaned over to
Hmm.
her during the show, and I told her honestly, it was like, I wish they would have turned his mic up, because he seemed very quiet, but in all actuality, that's exactly how he was.
He was a very soft-spoken individual from everything I've
Right.
seen of him. Like,
And
I've never met him in
yeah,
person or seen him in show, but like
right.
I've watched plenty of Michael Jackson. I feel like all
Oh,
of us
sure.
have.
Oh, sure. And no, it was just he did such a good job imitating him, and honestly, it's such a shame that he's dead, because I really wanted to know exactly what his career would have done after 2009, and
Hmm.
like he was just so talented, and he was so well he was such a really good artist. But the guy imitating him did such a good job. And so as I said, the plot is they're rehearsing before his big tour. And the plot also doubles as obviously a biopic for Michael Jackson. And the way that they do it is
Yeah.
so clever, because they use, so how do I explain this? um Obviously on the tour you have a stage manager, you have a choreographer,
Hmm.
you have Michael Jackson's accountant, you have
Oh
people
man,
who
they went
dance with
that
him.
deep.
You have all the people for his tour. Well, as you know, they're setting up the next dance, cuts to red, like the lights on the stage turn red, and the stage manager is now his father. Is now his father. The dancers are now the Jackson Five. Um, the one woman singer is his mother, and her children are young Michael. Um, and
Interesting.
it was so interesting, and it took me a second to get into it, but once I realized what they were doing, what they were going for, it I, I was hooked. I thought it was clever. I thought it was interesting, and specifically how uh tragic his story was, and how they told it. One character in the present day would say a line that then shoots Michael back into like his own mental flashback of something that his father did to him. So like the stage manager said, Michael, you ought to smile more, which is something that his father said to him all the time. It cuts right back to his father saying the same thing. And then it cuts to an argument with the father and the mother, and Michael's witnessing it. It was so, it was so creative. Like I just don't,
Hmm.
I don't ever see that anymore. And it was so cool. Um, I used this comparison when I was telling my dad about the show, but I felt the same way about MJ the musical that I did watching Rocket Man for the first time. Rocket Man
Hmm.
is the Elton John biopic, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah.
big show that cut between the
A
present and the
gigantic
back.
artist.
It cut between the present and the past a lot. But it did so, like, the whole modern day part of it is Elton's in therapy for his drug addiction and his
Hmm.
alcohol addiction and sex addiction and all of it. And he's in therapy, and he cuts back to his past as he sees a vision of himself as a kid, or he sees his mom as a kid, this, that, and it's same thing. It's the same thing here with the MJ musical. It was so creative and it was so cool. Um, and so that's the whole story, basically, in a nutshell, is it goes through his past as it's in his present. I know it's such a weird way of
Yeah.
saying it, but that's the best way to explain it.
No,
But
like
I think
it definitely sounds like an interesting concept.
the concept itself is just very interesting. But I think the absolute standout, and it's a Michael Jackson musical. If this was absolute dog shit, I think that everybody would go bananas. But the dancing was out of this world. I mean, they were doing stuff that oh my god, I could only dream of doing.
Got
It was so
jealous.
cool. No, I did. Like, I it was so well done, and it was very Michael Jackson. Everybody, like, just brought their A game, and they had so much energy. It felt the vision was very clear, and it was very fun. I think that's the biggest thing with the Michael Jackson dance numbers. They have to be fun because that's what they
Oh
always
yeah.
were.
Oh yeah.
That's what he tried to create, and so I think that as long as that was great, I think the musical was always going to be a success. But I mean, it was so cool. Um, what one of my favorite segments was the Smooth Criminal segment, because that was like the big dance break. So Act Two started with Billie Jean. Yeah, this is more of just like a meta thing. Do you know how Michael Jackson usually starts Billie Jean? Like, he walks out with a suitcase, he opens it up, and he slowly teases the
Yeah.
audience by,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at this! It's a glove, one singular glove. I'm gonna put that on.
Yes,
What's it? It's a hat. Look at that!" Yeah, like, he does the whole teasing thing. Well, that's how Act Two
mhm.
starts. Is he walks out and he's being very fourth
Oh,
wall
that's
breakish with
cool.
the audience, and he's
That's
putting it
cool.
on, and then it goes straight into Billie Jean. It was really cool, and then it goes right into Smooth Criminal, which is kind of like really the big Act Two opener with everybody dancing, everybody
Mhm.
doing, the lean, where they're all leaning to one side, and I don't know how people do that. It's
So
insane.
iconic. I mean, it's
um,
iconic. That is one of the most iconic dance moves
yeah,
in history, honestly. Like, let alone just remove Michael Jackson from like iconic Michael Jackson. It is like one of the most iconic moves in dance history.
yeah, yeah. Um, but no, I mean, like I said, the dancing was the big standout. I do also have to give a nod to the writing. I mean, the way they wrote Michael, I do think the family of Michael Jackson had like a hand to play in writing the script and everything,
I
and
would hope so. I would hope so.
they really wanted to make sure that Michael's essence was captured, and they did a good job of that, because Michael Jackson wasn't a serious person. He never tried to be. He was a prankster and a
Hmm.
jokester, and that's why often throughout the play you would see him pulling pranks. Like, his accountant's trying to talk to him about something really important, and all of a sudden Michael pulls a water gun on him. And he's squirting him with the water gun, and he's like, "All right, I'm done. I kid." And then he points it right back at his head, and it was so funny, and it really brought out the
Uh-huh.
childish nature that Michael Jackson had. And it's just moments like that that I'm like, that was Michael Jackson. I'm glad they added that, and it was so well done. And then when it was a very serious moment and a bit of a darker moment, they did a great job showing that. One of my
Hmm.
favorite things that they did with the writing, strangely enough, it wasn't even anything when they had dialogue. It was all show and no tell. And I'm specifically talking about what they did with Thriller and that whole sequence. Thriller obviously being one of Michael Jackson's biggest hits and his biggest songs. Honestly,
I mean,
it
what
potentially
wasn't
could be
his
my favorite.
biggest hit?
Yeah, that's fair. But Thriller, to a lot of people, being his biggest hit and one of the most
Oh
iconic
yeah.
songs ever. And I will never be able to look at that song the same way now that I've watched this musical, because
Interesting.
so for context, in the musical, his dad always pushed him to be the best, never gave him breaks, never showed any love or affection because he wanted the best for his son. And
And
that
he
created
got started
animosity.
young.
Yeah, and he got started
He got
young.
started really in the industry really young. Like, people might not realize this. I mean, I guess a lot of people probably know this, but for those who don't, like, Michael Jackson got started as a kid, as a part of the
Yeah.
Jackson 5.
Yeah.
Like, he was, I don't know exactly how old, but I think some of the earliest clips are like probably like 6, 7 years old. Like, his entire family was well known at the time that he started. Like, Michael Jackson wasn't just some overnight sensation. No, he has been doing this forever. And with
Right.
his family until he finally broke out solo and became Michael Jackson.
Right. And I mean, yeah, he started in the Jackson 5, and his brothers too were also pretty much abused by their
Yep.
father. And throughout the whole show, you see that terrorizes Michael. You see that brings a lot of hurt and pain. So much so that his father actually, when Michael rejoined with the Jackson 5 after doing a solo album, this is just a Michael Jackson history thing. A pyrotechnic went off, which caused him to have a lot of burns and scars, and his hair caught on fire. It was horrible, and he had to go on painkillers, which was pretty much the start of his battle with drugs,
Yeah.
which led to his eventual death in 2009. And that's a very prevalent thing throughout the entirety of the present day part of the plot, which is why is Michael taking so much painkillers all the time? What's going on? But like I was saying, his whole family was abused in some way by their father because his father wanted him to be the best. That's all. And in a lot of ways, it really wasn't even out of love, but it created animosity between Michael and his father.
Oh yeah.
Obviously. And the big twist, and this is why I had to give pretext. Thriller was done in a way in which you start off in the past, and it's a scene between his father and young kid Michael, and basically what he's telling him is, you got to work hard, you got to be the best. I can't remember what the last line was, but it goes silent. Young Michael turns towards the audience and he starts singing Thriller. It's close to midnight. And his father is walking off stage. He doesn't get completely off stage. He's still on stage. And you see the father slowly start to twitch out. And you don't know what's happening until it happens. Young Michael and old Michael start singing together. And you realize it's Michael, adult Michael, present Michael's dream. And the dad finally gets off stage after twitching like he's turning into a zombie. The lights go dim. There's only a spotlight on Michael. And when the lights come back up, his father is in this devilish ringmaster outfit. And you have what are basically his family members who are also people who are puppeted by him, who are like the demons haunting Michael. Yeah. And the whole point of what they do with Thriller, and this is why I can't ever look at it the same way, is they twist the lyrics so that it's about his father.
Wow.
Like, so I want to give an example. You try to scream, but terror takes the sound before you make it. You know that lyric in the song?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Usually that's him talking about, like in the music video, that he's singing to his girlfriend who he went to the movie with. But in the musical, they turn it into his father is the terror that's coming for him, and he can't do anything about it. And it's dark, it's grim, and it was I actually cried when I saw it because it was so,
yeah, no, that's
like, it turned every thought and notion that I had about Thriller, which was, oh, it's just a Halloween song, you know, it's about scary werewolves and zombies and dancing and whatnot. And it turned it into a very emotional moment between how between Michael and his father, about how Michael sees his father. And it was dark, it was grim, and I loved every second of that number. And I will never be able to look at that number the same way. And then the show ends with Michael making it to his tour. Literally the last thing, throughout the whole show, he's talking about how, yeah, no, I want a jetpack. I want to fly over the audience. And that's the whole point of the countdown, is like, Michael, that's not possible. No, you
Okay, that
can't do
makes sense now. That makes sense. That's funny.
And Michael's like, well, let's compromise. Get me like one of those things that pops me up from the bottom of the stage, and I can just jump up on top of it.
Oh.
And it ends with him in his famous dangerous album tour outfit with like the gold and the black and the glasses.
Yep.
And it ends with him jumping off on the stage, and it turns him 360, and the audience is chanting, Michael, Michael. And it ends with him taking off his glasses, and it cuts to black. Like I said, I was floored and amazed at what they did with this. And again, as somebody who does know the history of Michael Jackson, and I've watched as many documentaries as I can about him, because that's how much I love him as an artist, they did the musical so right, man. And it was so cool. And I was so happy that I got a chance to see that musical. It was just absolutely incredible. I want to see it again, truly.
I mean, you're making
Honestly,
me want to see it.
no, it's really cool. If it comes to where you're at, absolutely pay the money, go see it. It's
Yeah,
worth every penny.
I'll keep my eye out because that definitely sounds interesting.